Hi, everyone. Today's guest, we have Quinn from NuWorld Title on the show, and he's going to be talking about all things that you want to know about title when it comes to real estate investments for not just investors, but also homeowners too. So please help me welcome Quinn to the show, where we're going to talk about a lot of good things today.
Thank you, Christina. I appreciate the time and excited to kind of get into title and how we can play a part in investors' lives and also just helping with the closing process.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so this is good. I mean, I think a lot of people don't really directly work with title, right? I think a lot of investors will work with them specifically, but it seems like they really just go to their attorney, right? Rather than choosing a title company to work with. So can you just walk us through the importance of why you want to work with a preferred title company?
Yeah, 100%. So as New York being an attorney state, it is the norm to go directly to your attorney. Mm-hmm. However, having that branch on the title will not only allow you access to the underwriting team, but will also allow you more communication on the legal aspects. So at the end of the day, title is just title, but there's so many microscopic pieces that go into it that play a huge role in the closing process. So if you're a first-time home buyer, for example, a lot of these investors already have it all figured out, but first-time home buyers specifically, there's so many things that can come down the line and jeopardize it, whether it's encumbrance on LP, which is a lease pendants, any sort of lien. It becomes a big piece to the pie when you're working on, let's just say, getting a mortgage specifically. Yeah. You need title to get a mortgage with first time home buyer. Yeah. And so I guess that's how I was kind of piggybacking on that. Yeah.
Right. So it seems like title is pretty much one of the biggest things in any real estate transaction, right?
It's a necessary piece, but it's overlooked, and it can be a piece of the pie where you're not really focused on it at first, but it can be the one detrimental factor that halts your closing or puts, a rock in the middle of the road post-closing because the client wasn't, there was a judgment on the property that wasn't addressed right off the bat. So now that new buyer comes in and now has to address that. Right. My job is to bring that transparency forward, make sure that title is clean of any liens, encumbrances that can, jeopardize it for the long-term longevity of that future buyer. Yeah. So it protects them in the long term. Yeah. But it also protects them. So let's just say the example I love to use is if her grandparents, they pass away and they do a quick claim deed down to her grandkids, right? Right. And then the grandson sells the property to a group of investors for a decent price. Yeah. And then they move in there, they do renovations, and then someone knocks on their door. It's a niece. Yeah. That's a situation that I've heard happen, and it's very frequent because when you're signing off on a deed, you have to have all the signatures from all the parties involved, whether it's a couple, whether it's a niece and nephew. Yeah. Whoever is on that deed has to give the rights away. Yeah. So they have to sign off on that deed, but then transfer title. So title insurance in that specific situation will protect that buyer. Yeah. If the niece were to come back and say, I'm suing you because this is my grandma's spot. Right. It's her old house. She gave it to me, but she had no involvement with her brother who was then selling that house. Yeah. If that's a family issue could have arisen, whatever the case may be, title's there to really protect that buyer. Yeah. And it's an insurance aspect that covers a certain percentage of their down payment, percentage of the house. And then from us, NuWorld, we like to go a little bit above and beyond to protect that buyer for the longevity of that entire duration of that house. So.
Wow. So pretty much it's really your biggest protection for your house, right? It's kind of like that invisible protection that, you don't see. Yeah. But I just want to know too, are there any ways that you guys things that people can do to kind of mitigate those things from happening or preventing it?
Yeah. So, biggest thing when working with a title agent specifically too is you have access not only to the underwriters, but to the back end of our team, right? So we're going to the county clerk's office. We're going through the motions, doing those preliminary title searches, which pull out those LPs, those, mechanics liens. If you did a mechanic and he did, fixed your kitchen and pay him $5,000 and is placing that lien on, he's reinstating that lien every single quarter or however the system is in place. Yeah. That can still be on the file even if it doesn't pop up on just like an average search. So
Yeah.
our job is to kind of pull out all those missing details and present it either to the attorney, to the seller. So everyone's aware of like how the transaction is going to go down.
Yeah.
And it's funny enough, we even pulled, so on this specific buyer, there was a lien placed on him as an individual. Now it ended up being like a medical expense that was unpaid for, but that was still something you were able to pull out and title on the borrower and the property itself. So there's a lot of different pieces that kind of go into it. But at the end of the day, it's,
That's interesting. So if someone has a judgment against themselves, right? And not normally the property, that can even be pulled up in a title search that can affect the actual property.
So in this specific situation, we were doing, our due diligence on the buyer and the seller, obviously.
Yeah.
And that was pulled up because he wasn't able to get a mortgage on the property because he had already outstanding judgments.
Wow.
His name. So I, called the attorney, rectified it all.
Mm-hmm.
They ended up figuring it all out and we closed, which was great.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like, hey, we need to establish everything prior, right?
Yeah.
And transparency is key. Like I'm working on a larger industrial deal that was a conversion from an industrial warehouse to a event space in Brooklyn. Now there's a major LP from the sale back in, what was it? Probably 10 years ago, 2011, 2012, around there.
Yeah.
So that's during that negotiation back in 2011, there was a buyer that came in that submitted an offer that didn't get the offer accepted.
Okay.
And because there was financials and yada, yada, yada. So there's a major lease pendants on the property and we're some top litigation attorneys in this regard. However, that lien is halting the closing for a new buyer to come in and buy that event space now in 2025.
Wow. Also, it's been over 10 years ago.
Over 10 years, this has been in the works. And even if your judgment's in the clear and the courts have decided to appeal it, there's no timeline for that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
But that's just an example of how, a litigation from 10 years ago can jeopardize a transaction now.
Happening now. Yeah.
So when that buyer came in, it was placed on them at that transaction. So now we're working on, this buyer has until February to rectify this. It's not even the buyer, it's more of like the seller has to rectify it.
Yeah.
The agents have to rectify it. And it's going a little bit outside of their control because some underwriters don't want to take this on because there's past history with certain clients.
Right.
There's a lot that goes into it, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, too, an attorney is going to want to be charged about an hour. If
I'm sure. Something like that.
Significant too. Yeah. So when you work with me, it's like I can not only put it in front of, let's just say, a couple of different underwriters, but I can have, the back end of my office pushing this to all the different parties that I guess wouldn't be able
would need to be involved in it.
Yeah. So that way it's like you don't have one form of communication when doing a title.
Yeah.
But also have that title rep that can deal with
guide you to who to call if something like that happens.
Yeah. So we're working on that right now. I would like to say it's almost hashed out, but we have some of the top underwriters working on it. We're doing a lot. Yeah. So the litigation attorney to get that moved. And at the end of the day, it's still a risk for the underwriters to go ahead and then place insurance on this property.
I'm sure. Yeah.
However, just based on the appeals in favor of the seller, we're trying to figure out creative strategies like placing money in escrow to then hold a significant amount of money to offset the expense or the insurance policy for that new buyer coming in. So there's a lot of different moving parts going on. We haven't figured out the solution quite yet, but
it's working.
I'll definitely not say what we
so we'll need an update. But that's good. So you kind of mentioned that was like more an industrial warehouse that was converted. So, there's a lot of people that are in the residential investing world and also commercial. So like, what are some of the key differences that, people should be aware of when they're buying something residential versus commercial?
Yeah, for sure. So that's a great question. And to go into deeper dive in a little, I guess, a personal thing I can bring to the table here is on a major, it's a pre-development site with approved plans.
Okay.
Now the buyer's coming into to me and he's saying, hey, I really need to figure out who the actual owner is, because I've seen all these articles that the owner was, transfer of ownership to this party, to this party on these bigger commercial, industrial deals, whatever development sites. Yeah. There's like stocks and shares and equity percentages that people hold. And that becomes a completely different story. Yeah. It's just like a simple residential where you don't have like stocks and equity stuff like that, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And shares and like a board, right? So
Exactly.
like it just becomes like, I guess, complex to simplify, right? On these bigger commercial deals, NuWorld can definitely handle that, but there's a different complexity that goes into it.
Right.
Doing a deeper dive on all the parties involved, all the equity that's in the deal, the shareholders are, and so on and so forth. That all has to do with, I guess, the closing process. Yeah. But on a residential deal, I mean, I helped an investor close on this deal up in the Bronx. And he called me, I think it was like almost 2 weeks ago now. He was like, yo, I need, I guess, like the tax search from 1910.
No, okay. 1910.
And so I called the back end, like, oh, that might be a difficult pull, but we're able to get it.
Did they keep title back then? I don't know.
Yeah,
they did.
There were certain document that was on file that we were able to pull for him. So, well, on the residential side, it's a little bit of a simpler process. Right. We go through the motions of, pulling out any sort of judgment, liens, encumbrances that can jeopardize that new buyer coming in. But at the end of the day, it's really just getting, making sure the C of O is in order, the mortgage payoff letter is addressed. Like title does more than just title. A lot of time we set up a closing concierge process where we have the attorneys speak with each other, the lenders, making sure title is cleared. So we set all that up on the back end, and it's a pivotal role because I closing on one of my first properties out in Cleveland. It was really neat because in the county record, it was a mixed use commercial property. It came back as a file. On title, it was a multifamily 4. Yeah. So that is an issue right there off the bat. So it ended up being like a title solution now because the title was able to say, hey, here's a C of O that states, this is a multifamily 4 unit. The extension was built, probably the 1980s. And it was like a little storefront on this on the corner of this building. It was, I could see, see it in my head now. Yeah. But that was within the county system. Yeah. So there's a lot that title can do to kind of go a little bit above and beyond. Right. But it's
the core of everything.
It's I guess it's the wrapping paper.
Yeah. Yeah. You need it.
In order to close on the house and you transfer your ownership, the deed. But if you're getting a mortgage or getting a DSCR loan, right, that's a necessity. Title is a big key to that, right? Yeah. And yeah.
And I think you want to work with someone who's like also fast and responsive, right? Because I think at least a lot of attorneys, they might usually choose their own title person, but I don't think a lot of people know that they can choose their own title company. They don't have to go with whoever their attorney is saying, right?
Yeah, and it's funny how you mentioned that because at the end of the day, it's the home buyers that have the right to choose their own title company or their own title rep or, how do they ever want to proceed with title? Because it's that transfer of ownership. It's pretty much kind of choosing your own insurance policy, like homeowner's insurance policy.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not having my attorney just pick that out.
No, I'm Bailey. Yeah, exactly.
Pick out my specific, you should do a conventional law or an FHA. It does not matter. And it's the fact that I guess attorneys have the opportunity to then present title to their their parties that they work with. But at the end of the day, it's the homeowners that have the right, the investors that have the right to choose title. Yeah. And the biggest thing, like working with me, you have the extra, customer service. Yeah. I've had times where I was the only person that showed up to a closing. Yeah. The agent wasn't around when their lender couldn't, show up. And I was there for that support. Right. This is the first time home buyer that's international coming to the U.S., securing his first house. Like there's a monumental moment for me and for him specifically. But I was there and I was able to help and support him in that regard. And he had an outlet, you know, and when your agents or when someone's occupied, you always keep go back to title because they know every step of the way. They know the emotions that are going into it. They know if you have your mortgage got approved or where the title process is at. So you can give it the clear to close.
Yeah, exactly.
All the appraisals has been done. Like sometimes your lender won't let you know your appraisal's done.
Yeah,
And, like,
exactly. It's like, hey, what's going on with proposal? Oh yeah, it's done. Well, what was it?
a week.
Yeah.
They come back as
Yeah.
title. Like at least for me, I try to take it an extra step further.
Yeah.
And be there for my clients because I know like when transparency is not there, it can be really nerve wracking.
Yeah, I really can.
You know, it's like but everyone's doing their own thing, and trust me, like I am super busy all the time too. But when that communication isn't there, kind of lose track of like where it's at in timeline, you know, and have a certain date set. But man, oh man, the amount of times that I've extended the closing,
Yeah, I know.
you know, like
Yeah,
it happens almost every deal.
Yeah. Oh, every deal. It's never that date. Whatever that date is, push it 2 weeks out.
Yeah, exactly. So it's,
but
I'm here to kind of take it to the extra step and really make sure my clients are getting that treatment, getting that hands-on, I guess, attention that they're looking for. That's going to make sure that they feel confident going into the deal.
Yeah.
Because taking out a mortgage is scary sometimes.
Yeah. Especially if it's your first time.
Yeah.
I think that's important too, because I think as real estate professionals, we do this every day. So it's every day, it's a closing. So it's kind of regular for us. But for somebody who's buying their first house or their first investment, it's like, whoa, like, where is everyone? Can I talk to someone? They want that human presence. So it's good that you show up and you're there and, kind of just guide them throughout the whole way and beyond that. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of taking that hands-on approach like a real estate agent, but instead you're just making sure the real estate agents got you the house, but I want to make sure you secure the house. Yeah. So it's just the necessary
part of the process. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's good. I mean, I think it's really important to note those differences between residential and commercial, because especially like, there might be more components to that. It could take, much longer. But for somebody who's, once not so much in the commercial space, but they're repeat investors wanting to continue buying, like, how does that relationship look like, even before they start buying with you? Like, what does that look like for you when you take them on as a client?
Yeah. So it kind of starts off interesting, right? If an investor approaches you and he's like, hey, or you are like, hey, let me lock in a deal for you. How am I going to make this happen?
Yeah.
A lot of these deals aren't straightforward, but there's a hair attached. So I guess like kind of making sure you're delivering all that information up front the first time, right? And then having to go back and be like, hey, I wasn't able to run this search because of this. Like, it's really just saying, hey, I'm going to be there to address your draws if you're getting draws issued, a lender, or I'm going to assist in, pulling, the 1910 tax record.
Yeah.
It's like, it's kind of showing how I can go a little bit above and beyond to make sure they're getting their information as quickly and as effectively as possible. Right. A lot of these title things they're still like missing details.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like, I will take the extra time, go through the report and pull out the necessary pieces and say, hey, check out page 44 of the title report. It should have that broken down, but it's missing this little piece. If you want, I can go ahead and pull that additional details for you. So you have like a better understanding of what's going on.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, working with investors has been huge for me.
Yeah.
It's really helped me transition where I'm not just working with first time home buyers. I'm able to, just say, do a full fix and flip with an investor.
Nice.
Watch them go through that process, see what it's like to then, I guess, control the title, help him clear it of any judgment claims, liens, encumbrances, anything that can jeopardize him, and then help him then sell that property on the back end, making sure all the title information is present for that new buyer coming in. Yeah. And then kind of going through that full cycle stage. Yeah. And I've been blessed enough to have seen that and go through that with a lot of like top investors here in the city. And thank you guys if you're watching, giving me a chance because it really helped me not only learn, but I guess, expose myself to all the different situations that do arise. Because every deal is unique, and there's always something that does come around that you're like, you know what? I need to reach out to my team or the professionals that have been in the industry for 30 plus years that work with NuWorld to then get their advice in order for me to execute, right the first time. So
exactly.
I think daily my team is so helpful. Karina Tom has been a huge outlet for me. If anything title related, she's led me to have, huge conversations with our underwriting team and in that gap with our back end. Because, you give the title to me, but then it goes through the back end of our team.
Right. There's a process when
that goes, does the thorough research, does use the technology to kind of, pull county data, go, get any sort of encumbrance that was, on the property, see the ends of the property and make sure, okay, all the property that's within these lines are mine to buy. Where it's, a shed that's the neighbor built 2 years ago and it's on my boundaries, what happens then? That's an issue that's resolved in title. And that's a situation that comes up almost in every deal. Maybe not a specific thing, but there's like someone built a porch on someone else's land.
That happens too, where they have a fence on someone else's property.
And then it really, for that buyer to come in and not have the security of the lines of his property established.
It can be scary.
It can be scary because not only does that other person have the rights to then, use that space, but you just want to make sure when you're going into a deal that everything that you've signed off on is accurate. Title will help you pull all that information out. It'll help you pull out all the past. It'll help you pull the past out. Bring it to the present, address it so you can go ahead and move forward with a clean slate. And that's the glory of it too. It's a little microscopic piece, but
they're important.
It's such a important aspect.
And since you're really focusing on working with investors, right? So I know a lot of investors that they buy houses off the auction, and usually you're buying it sight unseen. You don't do any reports. So do you work with a lot of people like that, and do any preliminary searches for them?
Yeah. That's a great question, because whether you're going into an auction, there's always a judgment or a lien on the policy. If you want to take the extra time, the extra due diligence on your end, you say, "Hey, Quinn, why don't you run a judgment and lien search for me?" It's going to cost you anywhere between $20 to $300, depending on the scale of the deal. I mean, $20 million deal, it costs you $300. Multifamily, single residence to college zoo, $50 to do that quick judgment and lien search. So it's putting that additional expense up front, being like, I need to do this.
It's
just like
important.
appraisal. It's like, if I'm going to an auction and I want to know it's good, get a judgment and lien search prior to submitting any offer, because who knows, there could be outstanding debt, water bills, taxes. There's so many different pieces that can go into this. So it's really kind of up to you to say, hey, find a title rep, find the attorney, connect directly to the back end and say, hey, run this quick judgment and lien search outside of the closing process. That way I can pay up front for getting, information delivered straightforwardly. And I guess the turnaround time too on that is a big thing. Like, a lot of people want results quickly. At NuWorld, we can get, we can refinance. We can do a refinance in 2 to 3 days, which is really great. On a purchase and sale, anywhere between 3 or 5, 7, depending on the length and I guess what we're pulling out. But our turnaround time is very quick. Nice. It's great to have title rectified well prior to closing.
Exactly.
So and we pride ourselves on that, and making sure when you do have that fully executed contract, you're getting that to us, and we're putting it through the motion, getting that back to you prior to closing. So
that's awesome. I mean, I think it's really good to know, especially for like investors. A lot of people, I mean, I don't know, especially with the auction, right? I think a lot of people don't know or understand that they can do that search ahead of time. It doesn't have to be, because it's not traditional anyway. But what about title insurance? Are they able to maybe secure insurance before buying something on the auction, or can they do that quickly after they purchase the property?
So on the insurance aspect after title really wants to see that you're, I guess, motivated and you're in the process of closing. So they want to see that contract fully executed, whether that's signed by the bank or signed by the seller directly. So once that's in the motion, then you can go ahead and secure that title insurance. But you couldn't necessarily get it prior to the auction. But that's where that judgment and lien search comes into play, because you can go into a deal way more confident.
Right.
Because
with your offer.
These are, I'm going to spend the extra $200, $100, so I can know all the additional expenses that are going to add.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's it's not going to come out as like a little, you owe this.
Yeah.
It's going to be, LP, it's going to be judgment here, tax lien here. And so you're going to have to say, hey, these are all the things that I have to go in and make sure that title rectified down the road.
Right.
Or the seller or the bank or you taking that out of your initial asking price.
Yeah.
And it'll deliver you the price that you should pay for your property.
Right.
Because you're going into auction, and if you're not doing an ego bid, you
Yeah.
really want to make sure that you're not overspending on that initial price, because it's going to be detrimental for rehab, for your carry costs, for, everything that's going to piggyback off of that. That initial cost is going to be your detrimental piece. So might as well spend an extra $100.
Yeah, don't be cheap on that.
For title at the end of the day.
Yeah. It is important. That's good. So is your focus for NuWorld really just like working with investors and just educating people more on the, title process overall?
Yeah. It's really just kind of stepping up to the plate. Difficult, hairy deals.
Yeah.
I'm able to, to do this.
Yeah.
So with my team set in place, we can definitely get it done.
Yeah.
It's been huge to me, whether it's a first time home buyer, the investors that I work with, the development sites that hopefully I'm going to be involved with as well.
Oh, nice. That's really
There's a lot of, even with an attorney of state, it's having those relationships built out with an attorney that they can say, hey, Quinn, I can rely on you to get this job done.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
at the end of the day, it is your attorney that is sending it off to title to get the title cleared anyway. Maybe it is an attorney state, but it's, title insurance and title companies still play a pivotal role, regardless if you have any communication with them or not.
Yeah.
And if you're really a performing agent, you definitely, and you should have that direct communication with the title company, because, or at least an underwriter or a sales rep or someone that's going to give you that information that an attorney just maybe doesn't want to spend extra time on, or whatever the case may be. So it's really just, I'm here to add transparency, assistance, and value to any, first time home buyers or investors.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, thanks, Quinn. I do have one last question for you. It's a surprise question from Dyer CEO podcast. So,
right. Should I read it?
Yeah, read it aloud. Yeah.
If you were on your deathbed and could leave only one lesson behind, what would it be? Ooh, wow.
One lesson.
Oh, if you were on your deathbed and you could only leave one lesson behind, what would it be? I guess if I could leave a lesson behind is, if you want to be a top performer, always set yourself up to be in the position of power.
Yeah. Why is that?
Why is that? Because with a position of power, I guess it sounds very upfront and aggressive in a sense, but being able to control a situation is where I find to be, you can, I guess, direct where it goes, right? Setting up yourself to be in a position of power, you're not negotiating prices.
Yeah.
You're letting buyers come to you, because this is the price that I, have set for this building, and this is why, and because it's a one-in-one, we can't get this anywhere else. Yeah. It's setting yourself up position of power. That's an example. For me, I'm like, how can I really establish who I am with the value I create without any, with someone else being able to do the same job that I can do? Yeah. So I guess the lesson for me, or I guess the lesson I'm leaving
for everyone,
is always find a way to, whether you're a hard worker, whether you're the smartest person in the room, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It's just who's going to be able to do the job as good as you can. And I guess that's setting yourself up for that position.
Yeah.
Something where no one else can replicate the value that you bring to the table.
Yeah.
And I guess at the end of the day, that's setting up, a position of power for yourself.
Yeah.
However you want to look at it.
Yeah.
It's
One of your
pretty
biggest
powerful. And I guess it's helped me motivationally, mentally, physically to then really establish, okay, how can I be the forefront of this conversation? How can I be at, whether I'm involved in this process or not?
Yeah.
Why am I still getting asked the questions?
Right.
Because they're coming to me because I am the value that's there. So,
Yeah. You are value. That's good. I love that. Well, thanks for answering the surprise. Can you just tell them where they can find more value if they want to connect with you and also use your title?
Connect to me on LinkedIn. It's just Quinn Hekee, QUINNHEKEE. You can find me on Instagram at Quinn's NuWorld, which is QUINNSNUWorld. And then, feel free to reach out to me on either platform. Shoot me an email at quinn@NuWorldTitle.com, or for my other role, acquisitions based. I work as an acquisition manager for a company, a commercial lender and broker. So I've been able to, connect a lot of private money acquisitions, institutional banking routes, or any sort of business loans in that aspect as well.
Nice.
So
that's really good to know.
So and if you're ever looking for anything off market too.
Yes, that too. Yeah, definitely go with Quinn for some off market if you want to make some calls and get like a list of whatever, water liens list, whatever it means, right? That'd be good to call and partner with you. Yeah. So thanks, Quinn. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to click the link for Real Estate is on Right community, and we'll see you guys next time.
Cheers.
Thanks.